Hi, today we're going to look at dividing fractions, but before we do, we're going to look at what a fraction really represents numerically. So if I write the fraction 9 divided by 3, this means how many times does 3 go into 9? So it goes in 3, 6, 9. It goes in 3 times, right? If I was to write 8 divided by 2, or 8 on 2, I could also represent that like this. How many times does 2 go into 8? 2, 4, 6, 8. It goes in 4 times. Now, I could write this around the other way. Let's have a look at 3 on 9. What does that mean? How many times does 9 go into 3? Well, it doesn't go in a full time because 9 is bigger than 3. It goes in a part of a time or a fraction of a time, right? So if I was to draw 2 rectangles to represent this, we'll say that rectangle is 9 units long, and this rectangle is 3 units long, and I'm saying how many times does this rectangle go into that one? Well, it doesn't go in a full time. It goes in about a third of a time, or exactly a third of a time, right? And when we simplify this, we get a third. So that is the numerical meaning of a fraction. Now let's transfer this to our multiplication and then our division problems, because that's going to help us here. So if I had the problem 4 times by 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Okay? I could rewrite that in a slightly different way. I could write 2 divided by 1. That's still 2, because how many times does 1 go into 2? It goes in 2 times. Now, I wouldn't normally write it like that, but it's a perfectly valid way to write it, and it's going to help us sort of investigate the next little part. Now, if I'm to do a different, what looks different anyway, equation, 4 divided by a half. I could also write this as 4 divided by a half like this, or 4 and a half. This is saying how many times does a half go into 4? Half, 1, 1 and a half, 2, 2 and a half, 3, 3 and a half, 4. It goes in 8 times. Now let's look at the similarities and the differences between these two equations. The first part is the same. The second part is different. And the third part is the same. So what that means is if we have the start and the end the same, but the middle part is different, these two things must be equal to each other for it to work. So that's timesing by 2 is the same thing as dividing by a half. These two things are the same thing. Must be the same, otherwise you would get different answers, right? So these must be the same. And this is how we divide by fractions. We convert a division problem into a multiplication problem because we already know how to multiply. Now, the way that we typically remember this is we keep this number the same, whether it's a whole number or a fraction. We change the sign from divide to times, or even from times to divide, it works that way. And we flip the fraction. And that's how we do the problem. So let's have a look at a couple. Let's do 3 divided by a third. So we're going to keep the first number, we're going to change from divide to times, and we are going to flip the fraction to 3 on 1, which is just 3. We have 3 times 3 equals 9. If I was to say how many times a third go into 3, third, 2 thirds, 1. So it goes into 1 3 times, so it must go into 3 9 times, so it works. If I had a fraction at the start, so let's say 2 on 3 divided by 1 on 8, for instance, we're saying how many times does an eighth go into 2 thirds? Well, we can keep the first fraction, change the sign, and flip the fraction. I'm just going to write 8, which equals 16 on 3. Okay, so it goes in that many times. Now, if you want to sort of think about how much that is, that's 5 and 1/3. Okay, so it's the same as 15 on 3 plus 1 on 3, which is 5 1/3. So that's how many times it goes into 1/8 goes into 2/3. So that's how we do a division problem with fractions. So we keep the first number the same, we change from divide to times, and we flip the last fraction. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you for the next one. This video accompanies a worksheet series which aims to develop conceptual understanding around fraction arithmetic. If you'd like to access the worksheets, click on the link in the description.